Well, we are in Bangkok for Traders Carnival, and as is the norm in Bangkok, you got to be outside the Emerald Buddha to shoot something big. And we are shooting something big. We have the big guest of the event with us, James Dalton, or Jim as he's popularly known. Jim, hi, good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So you've been with IBM. You were there for 1.5 years before you moved on to trading. You were the best salesman. What moved you to trading?
Well, I don't know if I was the best salesman. I had a good track record. But my problem was IBM, things didn't change. And I enjoy change on a regular basis. And the thing about trading, it's constant change. If there wasn't any change, there wouldn't be any opportunity. And the advantage is that most people don't like change. They want comfort. I enjoy change.
Okay, so you've been associated with CBOE, with the Chicago Board of Trading. Tell us about your experience in the United States, your experience with all these big exchanges, and how trading has changed from those years to now.
Trading has changed considerably, but the basics haven't. The days when I first started trading, the center of most activity took place on the floor of an exchange. This meant buy, this meant sell on the floor. And most traders picked up clues or got an edge from hearing the sound. If the market took out yesterday's high and the noise level went up, that meant that the outside flow of orders was increasing and we were going higher. So those traders would keep bidding. If the outside flow of orders or the noise went down, they instinctively knew that it was over and we would trade lower. So the traders on the floor had a distinct advantage from being able to listen to the market. When we went to electronic trading, that advantage for most traders went away. It turned out, I believe, to be an advantage for the individual because they got more transparency. When we went to electronic trading, everybody can see what's going on.
It presented the level playing field to everyone.
Well, it did initially. Yes. It did initially until all of a sudden we got into the world of, fast trading, and then it became those that had the fastest communication got an edge. So change is constant and it's ongoing.
Okay, so tell me one thing, Jim. In your first few years of trading, did you lose a lot of money? Did you learn from those mistakes? How did you become an ace trader?
I lost a lot of money. I lost quite often. I had to replenish my account on several occasions, and it's very humbling. Over time, you learn from experience, and you start to learn that if you organize the information better than the next person, you may get an advantage. And of course, that's what I did. I'm known for my work with the market profile. And then the market profile is simply a graphical way to review a market. To make a graphic or to make a distribution curve, you need a constant and a variable. This is what scientists have done for years. The constant we figured out was time. A half an hour between 8 and 8:30 and 9 and 9:30 were one and the same. Tuesday's as long as Wednesday. So if you take time, the constant, against price, a variable, you start to get a distribution curve. The distribution curve doesn't tell you to buy or sell. It's just a way to organize the data. Once you organize the data, now you have a better chance to interpret that information.
Okay, yesterday over dinner you were telling me that the big mistakes day traders make is they go after the trades rather than coming that one big trade come to you. You want to explain that?
Most traders are anxiously looking and trying to find a trade. And if you're trying to find a trade, you will probably find a trade, but it won't be the right trade. When traders, it takes a lot of maturity to understand that if you get into the flow of the market, when the trade is right for your time frame, you will recognize it. That's a very difficult concept, and it takes some period of time. But when it comes to you, when you see the trade unfold in front of you, it's now your trade. You have the confidence and you're in control. Most people are just too anxious.
Okay. The other thing that I want to discuss is how important is price when you're looking at trading, how important is volume, how much you trade, when do you trade, timing, price, volume? What's the most important trigger?
Trading is a business. And like any business, whether it be General Motors or Unilever, price is an advertising mechanism. Price advertises all opportunity. Time regulates that opportunity, and volume measures the success or failure of those opportunities. General Motors, Unilever, this is what they look at constantly, and it's the same concept with trading. Most traders don't understand that, and they chase price, and price is simply an advertising mechanism.
Other thing that I want to discuss with you is that sometimes you talk about breakouts, right? The price has broken out from yesterday's high. Is that a signal to buy, or is that a signal to sell? Do you look at volumes? Who's taking the market higher? Who's taking the market lower? How do you know that this is the breakout that I want to buy, and this is the breakout that actually I want to sell?
Well, everything is a series of facts surrounded by other circumstances. And it's an odds-based decision. If we break out of yesterday's high or break out of a trading range, if we break out of that range and the volume decreases, more than likely it's not going to be a successful breakout. If you break out of that range and you get more volume, so if volume increases, then you have a pretty good chance that you're going to get a successful breakout, at least to some degree. But it's the circumstances, and that's most people just look at price rather than understanding the surrounding circumstances.
So let's talk about the recent past. Where have you traded recently? Do you trade US equities, dollar, currency, commodities, everything, whatever moves? What's your best trade right now?
Well, I have traded almost everything over the years, but now, because I just announced my retirement a couple of weeks ago, I basically only trade the US S&P 500 or the E-mini, the small contract.
Okay. So, what's your sense? Is it breaking out to all-time highs? That's really been the talking point, because that's going to move a lot of markets as well.
I don't see it. It's been over a year since we've gone to a new high. Last year, the S&Ps crossed the 2100 level over 55 times. We haven't set a new high in over a year. The last high on the market was like 2105, so it died there again. What I see in the market for over 18 months, I haven't seen any indication of new longer-term money either on the buy side or the sell side. So what I'm seeing right now is a continual trading market locked into where we've been for the past 18 to 19 months.
Any chance of a breakdown from this range, or do you think when it does, it will break out and we'll seek higher levels?
I would think that it's an equal chance that we break lower versus break higher. Sometimes a market needs to break before it can rally. Sometimes it needs to rally before it can break. This market feels fairly heavy to me, okay, and it feels like it needs to break to find out what is really underneath that market. We need to scare out some of the weak money and find out, if we get a break, is there serious money waiting to buy?
So you get a sense that maybe the market is due for some correction. Let's see if there's enough money that comes in and takes the market higher. Would that be the right way to put it?
I never predict either a breakout or a breakdown. What I do is I take each segment of the market one step at a time. So if we start to trade lower, which we have broken, we had a trend line that held for over 7 weeks on the weekly bar. That has broken down, but now we're back and forth through that trend line, and so it's very uncertain at this point in time. And so I look to see, do the down days have more volume than the up days? And right now, the down days are bringing in a little more sell activity than the buy days. Yesterday, Warren Buffett made the news by putting $1 billion into Apple, and the market rallied very strongly, but the volume was less. The volume dried up.
So, okay, you're not telling us, you're not predicting, but from your body language, I can make out what you're trying to say. But Apple, it's been an underperformer. Have you looked at its trading history and how the stock is moving?
Oh, I've looked at Apple many times. I've been in and out of Apple myself many times.
So what's your sense about Apple right now?
Well, you've got you've got those people that are looking for a growth stock, and they have decided that Apple is no longer a growth stock. You have the other people, like Warren Buffett, that see Apple now as a value stock. And, you know, it's yielding, last time I looked, it was yielding 2.46%. And, of course, it's off a high of 134. It got under 90 the other day, just briefly. And then, of course, Buffett came in, you know, and took it up a bit. But it's a value stock now, and the growth stock people have moved away. That doesn't mean they won't change. Things have a way of changing. Right now, everybody is picking on Apple, and that's what makes it a growth stock. That's what makes it a value stock. But things in the markets have a way of changing very quickly. As I walk around Bangkok, I'm just amazed. All the small people with the little stores and, you know, little hutches on the street.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they've got their Apple phones. And I'm saying, wait a minute. It's no wonder that I think they generate about $67 billion a year in cash, and there's a lot of sales. So I'm not ready to write Apple off.
Oh, in Bangkok, it's only Apple iPhone and Samsung phones. I mean, I don't see any other phones here. So it's quite amazing, honestly, to see so many smartphones here. Yeah. So apart from S&P, what about oil? Because that's also been an interesting market. Do you trade oil?
I used to trade oil. I don't trade oil anymore.
Okay. But do you have any view on oil right now?
No, I really don't. I mean, oil's come back considerably from last year, and now there's been a tremendous amount of volatility. So even though we're back up around the $50 range, I don't see the confidence. It's not steady. It's going higher, but I don't see the sign that I've got really strong money and consistency coming in. So I think it's still subject to change, and I think oil could test lower. They got a lot of people that have gotten back into oil, and I would love to see a test to the downside to see what's really there.